Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome to another game week preview. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, of course, joined by fellow lifetime Longhorn, the prodigy CJ Vogel. Of course, everybody's still buzzing from the Longhorns' big win over Michigan, as we all are, but you got to get to it, all right, week to week. It is a grind, and we got to get to the next big opponent for the Longhorns. I don't know if it's a big opponent, but the next opponent for the Longhorns, the UTSA Roadrunners. Even Sark said this week, CJ, they actually showed the team the Notre Dame game, which was a big upset in college football over the weekend, to remind them to be on everybody's on upset alert all the time. If you're not focused and if you get distracted by even your success, is what the Longhorns have a lot of right now.
Yeah, and it's probably a good thing that he did, right? You know, you look at what Notre Dame was experiencing after a big road win at Texas A&M, and then you play back at home against a team talent-wise is very inferior to you. Texas is in a similar kind of spot right now. Today on the SEC teleconference, Sarkisian said this will be a great test for our leadership to make sure that our intensity is up, to make sure that our focus is where it needs to be, and make sure that we go out there and play the game that we need to play to prove once again that we are, you know, in that conversation for being one of the top teams in the country, but more importantly, to win the football game, Rod.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I totally agree. And we're going to get to the Longhorns' next opponent. So if the leadership for the Longhorns is up to the task, they'll play to a standard. And Sark is one of his go-to sayings of the offseason. The standard is the standard. So let's talk about the UTSA Roadrunners. You know, this is a very different team, CJ, than the one that came into DKR a couple of years ago in 2022. And honestly, it was a bit of a dogfight for 2.5 quarters. Into that third quarter, I believe it was a non-offensive touchdown. It blew the game wide open for Texas. And then we kind of get that Sark run that I always talk about. But this is a very different team. All the leadership, all the kind of COVID holdovers you had from that for Frank Harris group and Rashad Wisdom and that group, they're all gone. A lot of new faces on this team for UTSA.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, you start at the quarterback. UTSA played two quarterbacks, Adley Marburger and
Yep.
Owen McCown, against Texas State, more so because it was a blowout. You know, that game wasn't close. I know that UTSA, if there's ever a time in which you could come back and want another opportunity to regain some reputation or make a statement into what your season or program could be this year, it would be against a team like Texas, right? Losing 49-10 to Texas State, hey, that's not what, you know, a Jeff Traylor program is all about, right? He's been one of the hottest coaching pieces out on the market for quite some time. They were humbled. They were humiliated a week ago. They're going to want to come back. But you saw both quarterbacks, and neither quarterback had a tremendous game, right? You look at specifically, you know, what Adley Marburger and what Owen McCown were able to do. It wasn't a lot through the air. 12 different players caught a pass. 8 different players for UTSA attempted a rush. Yet no one truly had a whole lot of success. And you look at it, 10 for 23 for Owen McCown, 105 yards, not great, under 45% completion percentage. Marburger wasn't much better, 14 of 27. He did find the end zone for 147 yards and an interception, but there wasn't consistency. You didn't see the big playability from those guys. And the constant there offensively was both guys were under incredible duress the entire game.
Yes.
And I think that's the biggest focal point.
It is.
If you're a Texas fan, maybe wondering where those sack numbers are after this game, you'll certainly look at the box score and say, oh, all right, it looks all squared away, Rod. We're
totally
3 weeks into the year, and, you know, our sack numbers are where they need to be. This game will get you where you want to be in terms of sack pressures.
Couldn't agree more. My prediction was you will definitely get multiple sacks in this game. If you don't get multiple sacks in this game, now we can start worrying, correct, CJ?
Yeah.
Now we're concerned about whether these edges are actually going to be as impactful as we all thought, because I'm with you. Okay, now, by the way, the sack numbers are different everywhere. I went to UTSA's website, and they have their quarterbacks being sacked 7 times so far. I went to college football stats, and they had it 5. Pro Football Focus had it 6, because they had Owen McCown sacked 5 times and Marburger sacked once. I have no idea where it is. Point is, still, any of those is a lot. No matter which of those you're looking at, it's going to be a lot. And If we looked at the tackles for loss, they've allowed 17 tackles for loss. That number is consistent everywhere I've looked. So a 17 tackles for loss they've allowed as well. So you can penetrate and get in the backfield. And as a result of that, CJ, their running game. So on top of them having pass protection issues, as we've just documented, right? I think they've allowed something close to 30 pressures so far this season. That's a lot of pressure on your quarterback. Matter of fact, on the UTSA website, they track quarterback hits by your opponent. They got 11 QB hits on their quarterbacks by the opponent. So that's a lot of hits on your quarterback. Texas should be, in the realm of 5 to 6 of those. I went and looked at the rushing numbers for them. Their pass protection is one of the worst, I think, in college football right now, and so is their run blocking. If you look at their rushing offense yards per game, 79 yards per game, only 12 teams are worse. Rushing yards overall, total rushing yards, only 13 teams have worse rushing numbers in that regard. Yards per carry, only 10 teams are worse in yards per carry than UTSA. This running game it's bad. It's a bad running game right now. It's not good at all.
It is. And that's, I think, a reason why you see the play calls split. Obviously, they were down pretty sizably to Texas State a week ago, but a 60-40 pass to run split for UTSA. I think if that's the case going into this Texas game, again, you're going to see the pressure off the edge. You're going to see interceptions from that secondary. And I think you're going to see a recipe very similar to what we saw against Colorado State, right? Teams that want to throw the football, you're going to see that dime package. You're going to see that NASCAR package up front with a Barron Sorrell or Vernon Broughton as your interior guys, and let Trey Moore and Ethan Burke and Colin Simmons get after the quarterback. But that only works, right, if you have a complementary game. And right now, to your point, they don't, right? They average 2.5 yards per rush. That's 110th in the entire country. Wow. However, they attempt 44 passes per game, which is the 4th most in the country. So you see where they want to move the football. And right now, because they don't have a Frank Harris, a guy who's been around for 7 years running that system, it's taking some time to get acclimated. And when they play teams on similar talent levels, or in Texas's perspective this week, a superior talent level, I'm not sure how they'll consistently move the rock, especially with the way this Texas secondary has been playing so far this year.
Yeah, it'll be actually because I think they'll end up behind early in this game for Texas. So the pass rush will have a chance to pin its ears back, and that Texas secondary, which has been really opportunistic, very opportunistic so far this year, where they have 4 interceptions by 4 different players. I think this is a game where you potentially could get more of those. I will say they haven't thrown a lot of interceptions so far this year. Right. They throw the football a lot, so they do take care of the football. I think turnover margin, they are negative in turnover margin so far this year. Texas should win that, but they're not careless with the football. But they're a one-dimensional offense, and they're not necessarily good at that one dimension. I wouldn't look at their passing numbers in terms of throwing the football downfield. So passing yards per game, they're among top 35 teams in passing yards per game, mostly out of necessity, as you brought up. But if you look at their yards per attempt, out of the top 35 teams that they're in the same neighborhood with in terms of yards per game, they're the lowest in yards per attempt. There's like 6.7 yards per attempt. They're the 5th lowest completion percentage among that group. So even though they throw it a lot, they're not necessarily great or efficient in that regard either. So, and then like I said, they don't protect the passer really well. Their average time to throw, at least for Owen McCown, 2.43, 2.48 seconds. That's plenty of time for Texas to get there if they force them to hold on to the ball just a half a second longer. So they're very much overmatched in this game, and they can't run the ball to try to ease the kind of burden on these quarterbacks. So I do wonder what the passing game plan is going to be for UTSA, because they can't throw the football vertically downfield against Texas, and they don't really do that anyway. And Texas swarms the football right now, man. As Michigan, they sit on everything. They're sitting on routes.
Yeah, they're playing confidently. A few other notes on UTSA on the offense side of the ball. I know I mentioned Eddie Lee Marburger actually had more passing attempts than McCown a week ago. Jeff Traylor did say in his press conference on Monday that it will be McCown that trots out there as the starting quarterback for the Roadrunners. Also, where can Texas get pressure, Rod? I mentioned it a week ago. It was off of the right tackle, Evan Link for Michigan. And what did we see? We saw Colin Simmons kind of have a breakout game, right? 6 pressures, won a majority of his pass rush attempts, had his first sack of the year, all against that right tackle, Evan Link. I think it's going to be very similar this week again. Unfortunately, for folks who like to follow Longhorns after they depart, this will be against a familiar face. Jalen Garth is the right tackle at UTSA. He was previously at Houston, now at UTSA. He allowed 4 or 5 pressures a week ago to Texas State. Texas State, good football team. They don't have a Colin Simmons. They don't have a Trey Moore. So I think he's in for a longer night. That rest of that offensive line, not much better as well. The left side combined between the guard and the tackle combined for 8 pressures as well. So you're going to see Texas find ways to get creative. You're going to see a lot of bodies rotating in with a Colton Vosick, a Justice Finkley. Zena Umeozulu will get on the field in this game as well, in my eyes. A lot of opportunity for the Texas defense to continue that momentum and go into ULM on another high note.
Yeah, I got a feeling, man. Yeah, the guys with BGO, Colin Simmons, Trey Moore, of course, playing his old team. He's going to have some added extra motivation playing his old team. And, I think Texas, they're already one-dimensional. Texas will make them even more one-dimensional. And I got a feeling they're going to get, I say 3 sacks right now. Nope. I say 3. I think that's the number that I'm looking at. Because even if you just get 2, to me, that'd be a little bit of a disappointment considering how bad this pass protection unit is for UTSA and how one-dimensional they are now because they just can't do anything in the run game. All right, let's flip to the other side of things. Let's jump to the defensive side for UTSA, and I'll start here because I think that the pass defense for Texas State. I'm sorry, I was watching that Texas State game for UTSA versus Texas State was a problem. They really and honestly, if I'm sorry, I pretty much, if I'm sorry going up against that defense, I pretty much just take that GJ Kinney game plan. It was a really good game plan. I mean, it might save us a lot of homework and work. So I know they already got one, but that GJ Kinney game plan was fantastic, and it really did expose the pass defense for Texas State. I'll give you a couple of stats. So if you're looking at explosive plays allowed, UTSA allowed so far this season, they've allowed 28 10-plus yard plays. 20 of those have come via the pass. They've allowed 28 10-plus yard plays, but 11 20-plus yard plays, and 9 of those 11 20-plus yard plays have come via the pass. To give you context, Texas has only allowed 8 plays of 10-plus yards via the pass, and they've allowed, I think it's 4 20-plus yard plays overall. So the pass is really their Achilles heel right now.
Yeah, and it will be, right? And, there's some familiar names on UTSA on that defensive side of the ball, right? Kendrick Blackshear, former Longhorn for about a minute and a half in the spring. He's their 3rd-string middle linebacker right now. He only logged 1 snap against Texas State. Denver Harris, the former 5-star out of North Shore, 22 snaps, wasn't on the field a whole lot, is listed as a starter against Texas, so maybe you do see him more so there. But, Rod, you're going to need all the help you can get when you face a Texas team with all this speed and all these weapons, right? That's just going to be a consistent conversation point whenever we preview these games is how do teams go about stopping the Texas offense? And right now, when I look at UTSA, I don't see much variety, and the number one thing that stood out to me whenever I was looking at the drive-by-drive log between the UTSA Roadrunners and Texas State last week, for 2 straight weeks, we've seen Texas and Sarkisian go on a crazy scoring run at some point between the 2nd period and the 3rd period. Whether it overlaps over the halftime, you see Texas go against Michigan, right? It was 4 drives, 24 points, and all of a sudden the game's over. They score quickly. They like to go on those runs. Sark gets the heat check going. Everything seems to work. Texas State a week ago scored a touchdown on 7 of their 10 drives, not including the kneel down before halftime between the 2nd period and the 3rd period. So you see when that game was completely broken open. 49 points, good luck overcoming that. Over 15 total possessions, 7 of those touchdowns came on 9 total drives there. So wow. if when that dam starts to crack open, it just bursts. And I think that's where you'll see Texas really start to blow this one open. And hopefully it starts on that first possession. I mentioned it last week. Texas in the past year and a half only scored a touchdown on the opening possession, 4 out of 16 drives.
Wow.
I think that changes this week, and I think you see it really start to trickle down into the second, third, fourth quarters as well.
Yep, I agree with you. And I think this is the game. Sark, he had that great quote early this year that, some players, the football naturally finds them. They kind of naturally within the offense are able to develop chemistry with the quarterback, and they find their groove and role within the offense more organically than others. And then he said there are other guys where I gotta find scheme ways to get them the football. I gotta find ways to scheme them open and funnel usage and funnel targets to those guys. I think this is that game. These are the 2 weeks where the guys who haven't been featured, you may see them schemed open and funneled some usage and targets. DeAndre Moore, a starter for you with 0 targets in the first 2 games. We know he had a touchdown that was called back in the Michigan game. Amari non-black people wonder what's going on with him. Ajante Cook, who's had some flashes, but you really haven't seen him define himself with a consistent role within the passing game. I think this is the 2 weeks for some of that happening. And I'm looking forward to it. I want to see how Sark schemes those guys open. Before we get out of here, another quick nugget about this defense. My man, Coach Aquino, was always big on pass efficiency defense. He thought it was the most accurate metric to measure a secondary's effectiveness, a secondary's, ability to really defend the pass overall as a group. They're 111th in pass efficiency defense right now. That's out of 133 teams. They're 111th in pass efficiency defense. That to me just shows you. I don't know how if you're Texas, and I've said it before, they should be a pass first team this year. Pass to open up the run. The run game should complement the passing game. More and more, I feel that's the case. Even if you're just talking about matchup base. Last week, it was the case versus Michigan. I think it was the case versus Colorado State early on. I think it should be the case versus UTSA. It just based on the matchup, they can't stop the pass. And now they're not great at rush defense either, but pass defense is a severe weakness for UTSA. And they give a lot of explosive plays too.
With the way that they like to play offense, Rod, it shapes up for them to get into a shootout, which again doesn't favor them. And with Quinn Ewers, with those receivers, good luck if that's the objective, especially with the way that this Texas secondary is playing. UTSA likes to play quick, and I wonder if that changes compared to what we saw a few years ago whenever they came to Austin again, right? Remember, they had, a 13 or 14-minute drive to begin the game.
Took up the whole first quarter.
Yeah. It was nuts. I think it was 10 minutes. They kicked the field goal, and then they got the ball back. They had time of possession in the first quarter for 14 and a half minutes, with Texas going 3 and out somewhere in the middle of that. So far this year, Rod, they're 13th fastest team between plays. So about 21.8 seconds in between snaps. Do you really want to give this Texas offense that many more opportunities, right? I mentioned 15 total possessions against Texas State a week ago. They scored on 7 of them. There's your 49 points that Texas State came up with. If you give Texas 15 possessions, even with Arch Manning or Trey Owens in the game, I can't imagine that score being below 50 if you're the Texas Longhorns.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Considering the state of your defense and your pass defense that you have. One more quick nugget about the pass defense. Yards per attempt allowed. They're at 9.3 yards per attempt allowed as a pass defense, which is the 9th worst in college football. Yeah. So
maybe we'll see it. Maybe we'll see some.
That's true. Great point, CJ. That I talked about players who haven't been unveiled yet. Basically the third level of the passing game has yet to be unveiled either. Yeah, I didn't thought about that, but you're right. That's actually, this is the game. You can't really get the, and I don't know if it's Sark who he hasn't unveiled it because he doesn't need it yet, or if he's decided after 3 years in the system with Quinn, it just ain't worth it for us because we're so good at the short period. Why would we bother with such an ineffective, inefficient means of moving the football?
Yeah, I think you see a couple shots this week. I do.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, just to put it on film. You don't want your opponents you're gonna see starting to play you tighter and compress everything because everything comes with congested because they know you're only gonna throw short to intermediate. I will say the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl during that last year. They only had one passing touchdown of 20 yards or more through the air all last season. Oh, by the way, they had more than that with Xavier Worthy in week 1. Just a little random nugget there. All right, thanks CJ for all the nuggets and all of the info, brother. We appreciate it. Also, want to remind everybody we'll be back next week, and we'll be previewing ULM next week, previewing him on Texas football. So thanks to CJ, thanks to all you guys out there for listening, thanks to all you guys out there for watching, and until next time, hook 'em horns.